Today is also unity to maintain our family, community, nation, and race, whatever that is. I'm on the verge of crying like every 5 minutes, and I don't know how to control it because it's things that happen are so unexpected, right? And you're like, okay. And then you realize that it's not really that you're grieving somebody because I didn't know Kobe Bryant. Not personally. Of course, I was a tremendous fan. I love the Lakers since Magic and Kareem and James Worthy and all of them. Cooper. I love that team. I loved Kobe and Shaq. I loved 18-year-old Kobe. Italian speaking, really smart as a whip Kobe coming into the league with a Jordan-esque swagger. I love that young man because he showed me that you can study somebody, you can study a model and actually duplicate it. And even on some levels, become a little better. That there should be a standard of excellence that we should all aspire to, but you got to put the work in. And I love that about him. I loved his young ass calling out a lazy Shaq. I love that. Because if we're going to win, we need all hands on deck, and we can't have you slacking off. So this weekend was tough from a sports standpoint because I had just celebrated my man LeBron passing Kobe, all-time scoring list, and Kobe was gracious in that, and I was like, all right, that's cool. I just read an article. So when I got the text, because it hadn't hit the news yet, I said, no way. No. I just saw him respond to LeBron. There's just no way. And then it was a way. And I had to was on my ass for a minute. But I had to contemplate, like, what does this mean? And here's what it means. Nobody leaves this world alive. Not a single person listening to my voice, neither will I. I talk often about living to 120 years. It's just because I feel like I have so much to do that I'm going to need every one of those 120 years to do it. But you know what? This life is to be lived, and then it's to be passed along. I often talk about this race being more of a relay race where we pass the baton, we get to a certain place, we pass the baton to keep the legacy going, to keep the memories going, to keep the knowledge going. You're supposed to run your leg, right? And I feel in 41 years, Kobe ran a leg. He ran a leg. His daughter, not so much. We're going to talk a little bit about that relationship. I also want to take time to pay tribute to Christine Mauser. She was the assistant coach for Gianna Bryant's Mamba Academy basketball team. She was hired personally by Kobe Bryant. It was a job that he saw her in. Christine Mauser left behind 3 little kids. Her husband, Matt, said, I got 3 small kids and I'm trying to figure out how to navigate life with 3 kids and no mom. That's tough. I don't know what that feels like. I know she was on that helicopter going someplace with Kobe and his daughter and everyone else on that helicopter to enjoy a practice with the Mamba Academy team. They were waiting for them on the other side, and this is not something unusual. Kobe has been helicoptering since he was in the league. It was the way he got around. Most of us are in traffic in LA, sitting in cars for hours, and his body couldn't take it. This was the way to circumvent all of that, to get the most of the time on this earth. He started helicoptering, right, to work, to practice, because it cut down on his commute and it allowed him to get in the gym and do the things that he wanted to do instead of spending it on the highway. It was expedient. Brilliant. John Altobelli, he was the head baseball coach at the Orange Coast College in Costa Mesa, California. He and his wife, Kerry, were on the plane as well as their daughter, Alyssa. The college, the Orange Coast College, confirmed their deaths. So I'm not saying this out of turn. It's public knowledge. And I'm being careful about that because a couple of media outlets did, I think, something that was really dastardly. They did not allow family members to learn about the deaths of their loved ones first, which should always be the order of things. I get it. We're in a news cycle where you got to be first to market. But why? For extra clicks and algorithms? Is it worth it? What price is your soul? Guess it's very high. But John Altobelli, his his whole family was on that plane with Kobe and his daughter. Peyton Chester, she's a 13-year-old basketball player on the team. Her mom, Sarah, they were also passengers. And of course, the pilot. And as you think about, there's a lot of talk about, well, it was the LAPD, they downed their helicopters, it was bad weather. Yes, okay. And we can litigate that. There's going to be a lot of blame. Was it the mechanical, fault? They're not here. The 9 people on that helicopter not here. We can complain and talk about it. It's not going to bring them back. It's not going to change the trajectory of what happened. They're going to suss it out. And yeah, we should know whether it was fog or whether it was a mechanical error with the helicopter that was owned by Kobe Bryant. And I can't imagine that he would get on a helicopter with any kind of faulty mechanics with his daughter and those family members, because there's a responsibility, right? So I don't want to hear any of that today. I also don't want to hear talk of like, oh, well, that's why we shouldn't get on helicopters, because there was a helicopter crash in New York last week and planes go down and yeah, things happen. Yes, every day. When it's your time, it's your time. And that's really the point. That's really the point. I don't know why things happen, but I know that they do happen. And a lot of times it's random, which is why if you got up this morning, the question you should ask yourself is am I doing the most with my 24 hours? Am I doing the most with the time that I've been given? Because it's a gift. If you got up this morning, you have a gift. 866-801-8255. And the gift is life. Kobe lived 41 years abundantly. He did a lot. He did everything. 5 championships. We can go through his career. But he's got an Oscar, and he was doing films and books. He was writing books, and he had 4 daughters. And people asked him, don't you want to have a son to leave on the legacy? And Gianna was like, nah, I'm the legacy. I got this. So there's that. They're calling it a freak accident. I don't know. And if you want to call, listen, I don't have any answers for this. And this is not, God, no, I'm not even going to get into all of that. I just want to say that we all have an expiration date. Every single person listening to my voice will be checking off this earth at some point. Nobody leaves this thing alive. But what I can say with confidence is that the time that you have, make the most of it. Live your life. I can't say this enough. There's the people listening to my voice right now that are living the dreams of their family. You're living your spouse's life. You're there to live, support them. And that's my life. You're living your children's lives on both sides. There's some parents that are pouring everything into their children and not living their own lives. And there are children who are living their parents' dreams. And none of that is correct. You got one shot at this thing, as far as we know. What are you doing with it? If you're not living your full self, well, I don't want to step on toes. Being yourself, if it steps on people's toes, oh well, toes will move out of the way. They will have to. Be yourself. Find out who that is. Take time to find out what you like, what you don't like. And don't be afraid. I was telling somebody, the way I feel, again, I didn't know Kobe personally, so I shouldn't feel this way, but I do think a loss like this, and it is a public loss, and not that Kobe's life is more valuable than anyone else's, but it's really valuable because a lot of us got to watch him. I remember him coming into the league at 18. I remember the rift between he and Shaq. I remember all of he's trying to be like Mike, even how he holds his tongue in his mouth. And, there was like all of this little bit of hate. And Kobe was like not trying to have it. And he was nasty as hell, the Black Mamba. And I remember that. So to watch someone grow up and then become this father, of 4 girls. And the last girl he just had in June, I was laughing because, people were like, was it June, right? They were like, oh, Kobe's got another daughter. And I was like, that's what he deserves. I was like, he deserves to have all girls. But if we're being honest, Kobe had enough money that he could have done, you can go in the lab and pretty much determine what the gender of your child is going to be based on the sperm that you skim. Like, if he wanted to have a son, he could have had a son. I know he traveled overseas to get, like, stem cells put into his body, He had the money to do that. He must have wanted to have girls. And I loved how he was with his daughters. It was beautiful to watch. The meme that was going around weeks before this with he and Gianna at courtside, and he's explaining something to her, and she's got the little hat on, the beanie, and she's like, and they're laughing, and that relationship, and people use that as a meme to do a host of other things on social media, and it's hilarious, like the cat anyway, but that relationship, and now all of the images of them coming out, him playing with it. It was beautiful when somebody said to him, hey, you and Vanessa should have boys, and Gianna's like, nope. I got this. I'll carry on the legacy. And his advocacy for the WNBA as a result of him having daughters. And him starting the Mamba Academy for these girls to learn how to play basketball at that level, with that level of discipline. This was supposed to be a happy, joyous day for them yesterday. It's now tragedy. And it's international tragedy, right? Because so many people felt connected to Kobe. What we're really tying into, because there's not a single person that hasn't experienced grief. But how do we express it? And you got to get up and go to work the next day. And people are bombarding you for that week, because when my dad died, you get the flowers and the food and the this for a week, but it's the month later when you're having that moment, like at the card table and he's not there, and you're like, oh, I can't pick up the phone and call him. See? So it's that connection. So we've all been there. And while Kobe's life is not greater than any person on that helicopter or anybody who's listening, it is a representation of the grief that we all have experienced, and we're not in this alone.